Hello, welcome to another sit-down edition of Stand Up CLE. I'm Mark Wooster, and today we have a real entertainer as opposed to a faux entertainer, Paul Draper.
Yay!
Renowned magician, anthropologist, lecturer, professor, and most importantly, or at least as importantly for this presentation, cybersecurity lecturer. Hello, Paul.
Hi there. Thanks for having me on again.
Before we start, I want to let everybody know that Paul is someone who I'm sure you'll want to contact and use. And he can be found at pauldraper.com, surprisingly. Boy, really amazingly lucky you found that name online.
You know, it took me years. I had to wait till the previous owner died.
Oh, of unnatural causes. But we will not get into that. So, Paul, before we start, I think we need proof of magic. Can you prove you actually are a magician?
Proof of magic. Okay, so I'm going to show you something you rarely see a man in a suit in a lawyer office carry around in his pocket, right, in a law office. I have 3 metal nuts. We're getting into the nuts and bolts of it.
Yes.
3 metal nuts. Watch close. Here we go. There's 1. There's 2 going in my hand, and 1 right there goes into my pocket. Kevin, our cameraman, how many did you see go into my hand?
2.
1, 2, but because it's magic, there's 3. Watch close, you'll catch it. You're on the camera, you have a close-up, I can't fool the camera, just like that. 1 goes into my pocket. How many do you think are in my hand?
2.
Right, 1, 2, but because it's magic, there's 3. You'll catch it this time. Look, just like that. There's the 3rd one, just like that. Oh no, Kevin, I think I screwed up. Did you see me screw up?
I did not.
You didn't. No, look, here's the first nut. There's the second nut right there. And there, well, that's the screw up. Oh, no! Oh, no, what is that? Kevin, you're a tech guy. What is that?
A bolt.
It is a bolt. So often people say it's a screw because I said I screwed up. But you're right, that's a bolt. Get rid of those just like that. Now watch. The first nut will come out of my pocket invisibly, like the nuts and bolts on Wonder Woman's jet. Throw it on there. The second one comes out invisibly. The inventor of Wonder Woman also invented the lie detector. Isn't that interesting? Throw it on just like that. Give it a twist and suddenly they're on there. If I could get you just for a second, Mark, to check those out, great. Okay, so magic.
I remember the Magic Castle, and it still gets me every time.
Oh, good man.
All right. So anyway, so Paul, just briefly tell us, what have you done in the cybersecurity consulting area?
Yeah, great question. So I during the time of Zoom, during the COVID pandemic, I had a couple of big security companies hire me to give hour-long Zoom presentations to Fortune 100 companies. And so several of these major companies like Washington Mutual and T-Mobile and the University of California system hired me to put on these Zoom presentations for all their employees. So I've had over 100 shows with 10 to 15,000 people per event coming to it. My background is my family opened Utah's first internet company back in the 90s, public internet company. And so it was a very early adopter of that technology and helping people get used to getting their information on and off the internet. I've had lots of law firms and other major corporations, hospitals, hire me to come and consult on sort of their current standing and where their vulnerabilities are as in the cybersecurity world and most importantly in the social engineering world.
Great. Yeah. So we'll get into that. Now, Paul has done other presentations for us on just general cybersecurity, but this one's going to be different because it's about cybersecurity ethics. And even though I'm a lawyer, I will talk about ethics. And because Paul doesn't know legal ethics, he'll guide through it. And actually, it'll be interesting to see how a non-lawyer reacts to what the law requires of lawyers.
Oh, no!
So, as anyone with a brain knows, cybersecurity is important for any organization today, not just lawyers and law firms.
Right.
Every company that has important information or activity on computers, which is basically every company,
right, is
susceptible to its computers being hacked and sensitive information being stolen. They're also subject to ransomware attacks, where someone locks the system up and demands money to unlock them. This has happened. Law firms are as a risk as anybody else. A recent survey showed 25% of law firms surveyed said they had been subject to a hack attack, and probably many more were and just don't know it.
Right.
Law firms have been subject to ransomware,
yes,
where they've had to go and pay money to get their information unlocked.
Because many of them don't have up-to-date backups in order just to say, we don't care that you've locked us down, we'll shut it all down and start again from what we have.
Right.
If you don't have your things safe, then you're in trouble.
Right. But beyond the normal self-interested business need to keep your computer systems secure, lawyers have a further obligation. They have an ethical duty to do so because they have confidential client information on their computers. They're supposed to keep secure from anyone but the client and others authorized to see that information. So let's start with a basic rule. It's ABA Model Rule 1.1, the first rule of ethics. It states that, quote, a lawyer shall provide competent representation to a client. Competent representation requires the legal knowledge, skill, thoroughness, and preparation reasonably necessary for the representation. Now, every state has some ethical rule like this for lawyers. New York, for example, has virtual identical ruling in its Rule 1.1. But modern technology hasn't had an impact on this rule because there's comments to these rules. You Paul knows this. Every rule has a rule, and of course, lawyers can't stop at a rule. They got to talk about it forever. So we usually have a bunch of comments, which are about usually either 5 to 100 times the length of the rule itself. And this comment 8 to this rule now states, quote, that a lawyer has a duty to maintain the requisite knowledge and skill. To maintain the requisite knowledge and skill, a lawyer should keep abreast of changes in the law and its practice, including the benefits and risks associated with relevant technology.
Right.
So now lawyers, they've actually changed the rules in light of all these hack attempts and all the vulnerabilities and importance of technology to require lawyers to keep at least somewhat abreast of this. So lawyers have a duty to keep up with the latest technology. So Paul, what would you say is the type of modern day technology lawyers should be aware of, both in terms of the risks this new technology presents and methods to protect against such risks?
Right. So the most basic things are being aware of what information is out there that we've put out about ourselves on social media, being aware of the software on our phones and our computers, being aware of the hardware that is our phone and our computer, being aware of the tools that we put, like locks on doors and walls around our house, to try and block people access, and these are like firewalls and spam filters and these sort of things. Be aware of the tools that hackers use to try and gain access to our information. Be aware of the vulnerabilities that are out there by people that are trying to get at us, and how we have to be constantly vigilant in updating that. And we can't be experts in everything, just like no attorney is an expert in all types of law. We have to have consultants and outside people that help us, but we have to have enough knowledge. We can't just pass it off to them. We have to have enough knowledge to be able to manage them, to check on them, and to make sure that we're receiving the best help that we can.
And that's advice Paul would give to anyone. But remember, for lawyers, you actually have an ethical duty to have some of this basic knowledge. For example, one thing you've talked to me in the past about, but I think we can go over again, is passwords. That's
right.
Something that we all know about passwords. But I think lawyers probably have a duty to know a little more than just the concept you have a password.
Right.
They should know why do you have passwords and how do you make sure your passwords actually are worth anything.
Right. And so it needs to be a password that is not easily searchable. Your dog's name, your best friend's name, the street address you grew up on.
And before you want, that detail is not just like something now. Paul, tell about the fact that if you think, oh, don't worry, I'll do something that was 20 years ago. No one will know that.
Right, of course.
How safe is that?
Right, because if you posted on one of these surveys 20 years ago on early Facebook or Twitter or MySpace or something that answered who was your favorite second grade teacher, who was your best friend in high school, what's the first car you ever drove, what was your dream job as a child, that stuff is still on the internet and searchable. Even if those old blogs of yours from junior high have been taken down, the Wayback Machine on Google still allows me to have access to that.
Oh God, if only we were young enough that my junior high, we had blogs when I was in junior high, but anyway.
Right. So who knows who's watching.
Yes.
This is the thing. People throughout history have felt, I have done something and no one will ever catch me. But technology eventually catches up. I'm sure, this is something you may want to cut, but I'm sure Thomas Jefferson thought, I have gone to my grave and I have not been caught that I sired these children. But DNA eventually allow us to know. In the same way, whatever we did in our childhood, we think nobody knows, nobody can get it. No, everything is eventually knowable.
So I think one thing before you go into the further part on passwords would be that don't use personal information,
Ever.
anything personal yourself, even no matter how old, no matter how obscure you think it may be, as part of a password?
Because it's easier for you to remember it, but it's also easier for hackers to hack into it. And no password is evergreen. No password is you have a great password and it will be your password forever. These passwords need to be constantly updated, and no password can be your password across all systems. That's like saying I have one key that lets me into my work office, my work safe, my file folder, my computer, my home, my garage, my storage box. No, we have many keys for many things, so that if one of these keys is lost and or stolen, it doesn't give someone access to everything.
Right. So, how do you recommend people get passwords best? Just to on themselves create random ones, or do you sometimes use these generators?
Right. You can create them on your own with the capital letters, the lowercase letters, the unique characters, numbers, all of this. There are password generators that do this. There are tools that protect these passwords and hold them and store them. But if you use those, you want to do a two-way verification where they also have to call you or text you, so you have to have two different devices to get in. But in the same way that a castle would have an outer wall and an inner wall, the more walls that you put up, they make it more difficult for you to get to the throne room, but it makes it harder for someone to attack.
Right. So on this level, when people are creating passwords, where would you recommend how they keep track of them? Because I mean, if you have all these different ones, that's nice. But if I have all these passwords that don't include anything I know, or
Right.
it doesn't make me remember it, how do I figure out what to do with them?
Yeah, I don't want to promote any particular tool, but there are tools out there that are password holders that will that safely encrypt these passwords. And a good tech person that works for your company or you hire as a consultant will give you the best, most up-to-date company for that. But even those tools sometimes get hacked. And so when they get hacked, you have to have other plans in place where you have backups of your information, you are able to quickly and efficiently replace all your passwords. You remember every tool that uses that same password, so that even if a password gets stolen, you know, oh, well, that password's only for this, not, oh no, now I suddenly have to replace every password everywhere. So you have to have, in the same way, you have a plan for what to do if there's an earthquake or there's a fire or there's some sort of a drill. You know, when I was little, it was always the nuclear bomb drills, right? You know, you have a plan in place of what to do, and you practice that plan.
Now, again, lawyers can't be expected to know the in-depth technology, but there is this duty to keep abreast of it to a certain degree. So, lawyers are probably going to hire tech people. Either they're a big firm, or they're going to hire tech people,
Right.
or they're a small firm into consultants. So, but when doing that and having these people, what sort of the general kind of technology should they be aware of to be able to ask the people, have you put this in? Have you put that in?
Right.
Just so they have enough knowledge to meet their ethical duties.
Yeah, I mean.
You may have already told us a little, but
what is sure? Let's create a schedule to update our hardware: phones, computers, routers, all of these systems. Let's create a schedule of when we're going to be updating our software. Let's create firewalls and password protectors and spam filters and all of these tools to help make it more difficult for people to get to us. Let's create a regular training schedule to train our people in social engineering techniques and how to avoid that, to keep our teams safe. Let's create a regular schedule where we everybody on this day every month changes all of their passwords. Everybody on this day backs up all their computers. And so much of keeping ourselves safe, just like having, the guard walk the perimeter, right? We have to constantly update this stuff and constantly have it on a schedule where it's just part of our lives. It's not a set it up and walk away. It's constantly keep things safe.
Right. So that's the thing. So you're not going to know all the technology stuff, but definitely when you hire someone, if you're a small firm, independent, keeping track of some of the things Paul said, like, asking this basic stuff. Do we have a spam filter? Do we have, are we going to change our passwords routinely? The like. if you're like an internal firm, you're not going to, individual lawyers in a big firm is not going to be responsible, but hopefully at least your managing partners or people who know technology will know these things are there. And if you're a lawyer there and see, for example, that you haven't been asked to change your password in a year,
right.
Maybe you want to call someone up and say, wait a second, are we doing the right things?
Absolutely. I mean, like we said in the last video, the FBI just put out a warning that we shouldn't plug in our cell phones into public USB ports, like at the airport or movie theaters or on airplanes, because those allow people to siphon the information out of our phone. And it's regular technology training like that that will make it so a bad random attacker, not a targeted attacker, but a bad random attacker, can't suddenly get access to all your clients, their information, and your notes on them.
Yeah, and one thing I've seen do, I think is very helpful, is especially for larger ones, is sometimes technology people will send emails that should not be opened to see if people are stupid enough to open it, and then we'll tell them, and then they can sort of keep track of who's doing it and who not. So that's another thing that you could have a basic knowledge of technology and say, is that the kind of preventative maintenance you're going to provide as our tech people?
And I'm often hired to try and hack as a social engineering hacker to break into people's homes and offices to see where those vulnerabilities are.
Yeah. So if you're a larger company too, they can afford things like that. One of the things probably you might be required, or people would, or at least be a defense to, if you're ever accused of ethical problems in this area, is that you did hire consultants every opportunity to come in to lecture your people, to tell the people how to run it. So again, you can't be a full tech expert. But there are basic things that you should be asking your tech people. Do they have in place? That's really simple. That even technical ignoramuses, which most of us lawyers are, can still know to make sure they're doing their job, and means you're living up to your ethical duties. Now, another ethical rule that has come into place that's relevant. That the other major one relevant is ABA Model Rule 1.6, confidential information, which says, quote, "A lawyer shall not reveal information relating to the representation of a client unless the client gives informed consent." Again, this is nothing earth-shattering. This has been a basic concept of lawyering since almost the start of the profession. And every state's ethical code has something in it. I'm sure Paul, even as a layman, knows that a lawyer has to keep his client's information secret.
Right.
Exactly. So, but the thing is that the rise in computer technology has changed this. Mm-hmm. And actually, in addition to this rule was made in 2012. The ABA added subsection C, which states that, quote, "A lawyer shall make reasonable efforts to prevent the inadvertent or unauthorized disclosure of or unauthorized access to information related to the representation of a client." New York and other states have adopted such a rule. And while it's classic lawyerdom, they don't actually mention technology. Mm-hmm. That's what they're talking about. And in fact, there's comment 18. I told you they have a lot of comments to this. Yeah. Comment 18 to this it lays out factors that lawyers can consider in determining what security is reasonable.
Yeah.
These factors include, these factors include but are not limited to. And let me tell you something, Paul. Lawyers always say but not limited to after includes, even though includes doesn't mean limited to.
Right.
We just have to say it. Includes but not limited to the sensitivity of the information, the likelihood of disclosure if additional safeguards are not employed, the cost of employing additional safeguards, the difficulty of implementing the safeguards, and the extent to which the safeguards adversely affect the lawyer's ability to represent clients. For example, making a device or important piece of software excessively difficult to use. So, Paul, just off the top, Todd's talking here, what kind of safeguards do you think lawyers should have as a matter of course?
I mean, there are things that they need to be aware of with if somebody types in, sends you an email, and it asks you to click on something, you need to be able to know if that's really from the person it says it's from or not, and you have to know that just saying their name doesn't mean it's actually from them. You need to be able to, if a device asks you or a program asks you, can I have access to all the contacts in your phone, to know that you need need to say no. That if a device says, well, we use cookies, do you allow us to use cookies so you can go to this page? You don't know what those cookies do or what they're putting on your phone to do. Even when we think about something like a cell phone, this has a front camera, a back camera, microphones here, and there, multiple microphones. If you're using an older phone with older software that hasn't been updated, I can remotely hack into older phones and older devices with older software, and I can look through that camera and listen through that microphone. So we have to be vigilant in keeping these things up to date.
Yeah, and that's of course in addition to what we talked about earlier, the spam filters and firewalls.
Right.
But now, again, this recognizes that the ethical duties can actually vary.
Yeah.
Because if you're a small practice, you're not representing high-profile clients, the information is confidential, but not like earth-shattering to the client or whatever else. Certain levels of basic stuff. But, you could be representing, a major case, a patent case where you have this massive confidential information that if it got out, it would ruin the company, or represent a very high profile client and everybody's trying to hack in, from every reporter is trying to hack into it if they can get there. So if a lawyer, you think, maybe requires super high vigilance, they say, this, cost is no object, we got to really keep this. Are there any even higher levels than you normally see that you might recommend?
Sure. I mean, at that point, you are hiring teams of people to think like hackers, right? You are hiring teams of people whose job it is to hack into systems, hack socially, hack physically, and to say where are all the possible vulnerabilities, and we're going to cover all of these, and we're also going to put in place all sorts of signaling to let us know. So here's one I mentioned briefly in our last video, is something called creating a honeypot. A honeypot is something you put in software for a software hacker, where they think that they're getting deeper and deeper and deeper into getting good information. But the actual journey to good information is over here. And you put all these things in where they think they're hacking deeper and deeper into the good information, and you're sending them into a honeypot, into a pit of fake information, so that you have time to catch the fact that they're trying to hack into you, so that you have time to put up more blockades, pull things, unplug devices, track the hacker and follow where they're coming from. So there are higher and higher level things. We talked in our last video about having separate devices. So you would have the lock on the door of your building, you have the security guard at the front door, you have the lock on your offices, you have the lock on your particular office, you have your computer that hooks to the internet, and then you have a separate computer that never hooks to the internet.
Yeah, describe that. That's what the FBI and people like that do.
FBI and CIA have two separate computers. They have the computer that hooks to the internet and the one that doesn't. All the secure information is on the computer that doesn't hook to the internet, doesn't hook to anything USB, doesn't have a modem in it, doesn't have any of these pieces. A friend of mine, one of the things he does is he likes to hack printers. And so any printer that has a USB in it, he can remotely hack into that. And his favorite thing to do is to try and get those printers to burst into flames. And so, can I get this printer to heat up so much it bursts into flames? And so, but with the same tool.
That's my hobby too.
Right. And a lot of these people are doing this stuff just for fun. But he can use that same tool to say, whenever someone sends something to this printer to print, also print it on my printer. And so it just depends how far you want to go to be secure. We can never be 100% secure.
But I think that shows that, well, you said what the FBI does, and that is actually very helpful, I think, for lawyers. If you have a big enough case, a big enough client, a big enough issue, and you have the money, admittedly, that might be a great security to take, that, for this client, this information
lives on this device that can only be accessed through a USB port.
Right. It'll never be on the internet, because that's about as most secure you can get. Though, another thing that Paul's talked about in the past, we'll repeat, beyond the security of the technology, again, one of the big weaknesses, of course, is just your physical security. Paul, can you briefly tell again the story of how you actually got into a law firm, or a firm,
right,
just pretending to be somebody?
So there are two different ways that I do this. One is if I'm okay being seen in the building, and the other is if I'm not. And so if I need to be seen in the building, then what I will do is try and find out who the tech company is for the building, or who the cleaning company is for the building. And I might get hired by the cleaning company so that I have access to the building, because most law firms don't require their cleaning company to do detailed background checks on everybody that's cleaning the building.
And if somebody would not pass a background check, it's this guy.
Yeah. But no, you'd be surprised what I do pass. But the truth is on it, they don't search to see everybody that's coming in to dump the trash, and those people have access to your offices, to your computers, to those USB ports. To if you decide, well, I just always leave my computer on in my office is safe. Well, there are people coming in. You come in and I'm the HVAC guy to check the air conditioner. Someone can externally turn off your air conditioning unit in any building. Just there's one plug to pull, and then you call the law office and say, "Hi, I'm with your HVAC company. We got an alert that your HVAC system went down. Is your air conditioner off in your building?" And your executive assistant says, "Yes, it is." "Oh, okay. Well, we're going to send somebody over in about 10 minutes. Please let him in. He'll need access to the floor to go check all the vents." And I can come up with a shirt from some random HVAC company that I print off online with whatever their brand and name is, a baseball cap for $15, show up, "Hi, I'm with the HVAC company, show me where all the air conditioning vents are in the office," and I get them to walk me into every partner's office, and I go, "Oh yeah, it's not going, okay, I'm going to need a few minutes in here just to check and see if something's plugged," and now I can take information in and out of that computer. I can pull the hard drive from that computer. A lot of laptops have external hard drives or USB ports that can be pulled. If these things aren't secured, even within your office, secured if someone's randomly in your office, it's not safe against a social engineering hacker.
So this shows is that technology security is not necessarily security that requires high technology. It's often the most basic stuff. What you're talking about is things that, security's been about for thousands of years.
Right.
Careful who comes into your place.
Right.
The basic things are who comes in. Really, pay attention to this stuff. Don't just let anyone wander in thinking, "Oh, who cares?" Because they can then get into your technology.
That's right.
So, it's not just enough to make sure your tech people are on top of it. You have to make sure your actual security you have in your office is real security and doesn't just say, "Well, that's the cleaning crew, that's that." And look, I've worked at law firms. The cleaning crew wanders anywhere they want. And
they have full access.
And especially if you have, again, super high confidential, valuable information,
right,
you got to make sure the clean people can't just wander in and grab it.
If you come up to a building with a couple of spiders in a box, and you drop those spiders as you walk through at the front desk, and then you call and say, "Hi, I'm with pest control. The building asked me to come and do some spraying. Have you seen any spiders in your area?" They're going to let me in. Okay, I need to walk the perimeter of every office and every room to make sure there's been an infestation here. They're going to let me do that. And so yes, you may have to put some things in place to teach your people to be skeptical of that stuff, that will make it harder for someone that should be there to get in, but it will also make it harder for someone who shouldn't be there to get in. If I go to the Apple headquarters, or I go to Adobe headquarters, both that I've been to this month, they take my ID at the door. They make sure that there is someone working there who comes down to greet me, who knows me, who can verify I'm that person. So it all depends what your level of security is.
Right. And the thing about security, it feels embarrassing and a waste of time to vet, oh God, the pesticide guy's here. Maybe he's not really the pesticide guy, but you have to be willing to do that, and your people have to be willing to do that, and be rewarded for doing it too. They can't be, if they, guy, "Don't you know who I am?" can't be a reason to let somebody in. So, but I do think we need more proof of magic.
Oh, more proof of magic. Okay, here we go. I have some different keys here. Now, I don't know if we can see. Can you see? I have a little keychain there. Can you see it? I have a little keychain there. I have 5 keys. I want you, Mark, to put them in any order you want in a row. Any order you want.
Okay, sure.
Okay, and so do we start the numbering? We're going to number them 1 through 5. Do we start it from pink or start it from tie-dye?
Start from
Okay,
pink.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Okay.
I'm going to eliminate some. What shall we have? Odds or evens?
Eliminate odds.
Odds. So odds are eliminated. Pick one up. Okay, look. We're down to 1 key.
Right.
The stripy blue key.
Yes.
Like my stripy blue tie.
Exactly.
Like the perfectly matched key right there. What?
What?
Okay.
Magic, folks.
But this is the thing, is that in the same way people can get access to information, our keys that we use to protect the places that we care about most, they are built so that a locksmith can open them if we lose our key.
Right.
They're not built to be secure.
Right.
They're built to stop the random assailant, but not the targeted assailant. And we have to do everything we can, depending upon if we're somebody who might be targeted by a cybersecurity hack, to be able to stop those people too.
Okay, great. We'll take a break, and then we're coming back with Cybersecurity Ethics Bingo.
Bingo!
And we're back with renowned Paul Draper. We're going to play what I call Cybersecurity Ethics Bingo, which of course is not bingo in any way, but I try to use things like Cybersecurity Ethics Jeopardy, but I afraid I'd be sued by Jeopardy people.
Right, sure.
I couldn't figure any other good names I found it fun, so I think Cybersecurity Ethics Bingo is what
There
we're going to
it
call
is.
it. What I'm going to do is, there's a couple opinions I have found from ethics bars, talking about lawyers' duties on certain hypothetical scenarios. So I want to have Paul read out some of these hypotheticals and give his layman's but cybersecurity expert's opinion of what a lawyer should do.
Okay.
And then we'll see what the ethics bar says we should
I
do.
haven't read these yet. Let's see what it is.
And it's the first time
So-
off his head. And this first one, by the way, before we go, these are 4 scenarios from the State Bar of California Standing Committee on Professional Responsibility and Conduct, formal opinion number 2020-203. So these are 4 hypotheticals they said about what lawyers may face.
Okay.
Go on, Attorney A.
Attorney A. Attorney A's laptop is stolen. Attorney A did not store confidential client info on the laptop, but only used the laptop to access such information remotely. Also, the laptop could not be accessed without biometric authentication. Attorney A's law firm also installed software on the laptop that allowed it to be remotely locked down and erased. As soon as Attorney A realizes that the laptop has been stolen, Attorney A contacts the law firm's IT department and receives a confirmation almost immediately that the laptop has been located, locked down, and wiped clean. Okay, so
The question is, what duties does the lawyer have to notify the client or tell them about this, potential clients about this hack? Well, not potential clients, actual clients whose information is on there.
Okay, so I think most human beings in this situation would wait too long to shut it down. They would say, oh, well, let me see if I can find it first. Let me see if it's in my car. Let me see if it's at the restaurant. Let me call around to the last few places it's been. Gee, let me spend 24 hours trying to find it first. If you do that, well, you're a bad kid because you've given somebody way too much time to do it. In the same way that we need to report missing children very quickly, where it used to be police didn't react unless they'd been gone 24 hours, right? So if they responded immediately, but the question is still, how long did it take before they realized that it had been stolen, right? Did they walk away from this laptop and it was stolen from the trade show while they were gone overnight or over dinner or what have you? If they only accessed remote information remotely, the question is still, if they didn't store it on there, what is the computer remembering? Because when I bring up a web browser, even if I brought something up remotely, that web browser is remembering that last page I saw sometimes. So I do have some questions with that. But if they immediately report it, they immediately shut it down, they immediately wiped everything, and I'd really love if this laptop also had no external ports. It didn't have USB drives, or it had some way for us to know if someone had put something in and extracted information, then I think they've done a pretty good job.
So probably, you think, would probably not be required to call up all
Right.
clients and tell them. So what do they say here? Here's what the ethics board said. Although attorney A's laptop is stolen, and it could be used to access confidential client information, the risk of unauthorized access to such information was mitigated by attorney A and law firms' policies for addressing these type of cyber risks. By the way, this is exceptionally good. I'm not sure how many law firms have this.
No, nobody I've ever seen.
First, attorney A did not store confidential client information on the laptop, but only used the laptop to access this information remotely. Second, attorney A had a biometric security system on the laptop, reducing the chances that it could be hacked by an unauthorized user. I don't know many lawyers who actually have that.
Right,
but
they're high, you're right.
Third, attorney A's law firm had the ability to quickly and easily locate, lock, and wipe clean the laptop, almost guaranteeing that there was no unauthorized access to any confidential client information. Under these facts, where there is no evidence of unauthorized access or harm, attorney A would not have a duty to disclose to any client the fact that attorney lost the laptop.
Yeah.
So I guess you have those incredible levels of security, you're okay. But I should warn you, my guess is most of you don't.
Most don't. No, I've never.
So actually, if you lose your laptop, you actually may have to go tell some clients about it. Okay, let's go to attorney B.
B. At the end of a busy day, attorney B realizes that attorney has lost attorney's smartphone. Attorney B regularly uses the smartphone to email and text clients and access certain practice management software applications related to the clients. The smartphone is only protected by a 4-character password and not any biometric security system. Attorney B does not have any software installed on the smartphone that allows it to be remotely tracked, locked down, or wiped clean. Before going to bed that night, attorney B remembers that attorney left the smartphone in a tote bag at a restaurant where the attorney had dinner with a friend. Attorney B immediately calls the restaurant, but it is closed. Attorney B goes to the restaurant when it opens the next morning and retrieves attorney's bag and smartphone, which the manager tells the attorney was locked in a cabinet overnight. Nothing appears to be missing, and the smartphone is still in the pocket of the bag where the attorney had left it.
So what do you think? Does a lawyer have to tell his clients about this?
I mean, what's on there? Who are these people? We don't know who had access to that restaurant. We don't know who has access to that manager. We don't know who has access to the lockbox. That phone has been away from the person for 24 hours. I mean, it really depends to me on how confidential that information is, how devastating it would be to the individual, to the case, to the company, to how much it would change the life of the person. But I believe most attorneys wouldn't tell their clients.
I would think not either, but what does California say? Attorney B's temporary loss of a smartphone under these circumstances is unlikely to be considered a data breach, particularly if attorney B can obtain assurances from the restaurant owner/staff that only the restaurant had access to it and that no one accessed the phone's contents after attorney B left. Because it does not appear that the data on attorney B's phone was misappropriated, destroyed, or compromised, the temporary loss of the phone is unlikely to constitute a significant development, and no duty to disclose would likely be triggered. Under these circumstances, however, attorney B and attorney B's law firm should consider whether it should require all law firm attorneys to have stronger passwords or use biometric security systems on firm-issued smartphones, or if the law firm should prohibit their attorneys from accessing client data, including emails on the attorney's personal smartphones. The firm should also consider requiring all smartphones used for firm matters to have software installed to locate, lock, and wipe devices if they are lost or stolen, and specific protocols for managing such scenarios. Next time, attorney B may not be so confident in attorney's assessment that no client data was accessed, particularly if the phone is one day stolen. For example, it is possible that attorney B's cell phone provider could have locked down the phone remotely, but attorney B did not consider this option or look to the law firm advice on handling this situation. Finally, when electronic devices are temporarily lost or misplaced, the law firm should consider whether its policy should include requiring its IT firm team to examine those devices once the device is recovered in order to determine whether any unauthorized access took place.
Right. Did they try, I can break into a four-digit password in 7 seconds.
Wow.
I mean, it's just not enough. It's not secure.
Yeah. I think also, these are good, but I'm not sure how practical some of this advice is. I don't think many lawyers want to have their own smartphone and their law firm smartphone on them. And also, imagine an attorney telling an attorney, boy, if you have your own smartphone, which has everything combined, and you lose it, we're going to wipe your phone clean.
That's right.
That's going to give people a heart attack.
That's
so
right.
These are important, but it shows you the difficulty of having true security in the practical world now, where technology is not just your law firm technology, not your company technology.
It's your life.
It's your personal life.
It's your personal life.
So, you know,
but in the same way that you wouldn't mix your personal journal or diary pages in with your client's patent information, and carry it around with you to the restaurant. If you would keep that evidence separate in a separate room, maybe having a separate device makes sense.
Yeah. Again, it's probably relates to what your practice is, what kind of, and if you're involved in, like I said, the biggest, most important, patent case in the world, or you're representing the most high-profile lawsuit currently around a law firm or criminal prosecution out there.
Right.
You may then then maybe the separate phone is required.
Right.
So
okay.
Let's go Attorney C.
Attorney C is a 4-member firm specializing in corporate law. The law firm's receptionist routinely receives emails sent to the firm rather than to a specific attorney or staff member, and routes them to the appropriate person. Just before the end of the business day, the receptionist receives an email from a business purporting to be the law firm's IT provider. Aha! The email...
I can see your antenna raising.
Yeah, the email looked entirely genuine. Easy to do. You put the header, put the byline, all that. Ask the receptionist to click on an attachment to allow the firm to do routine maintenance on the law firm's server. Yeah, receptionist did so, which resulted in ransomware be installed on the law firm's network, immediately locking up the law firm's computers and displaying a message demanding that a sum of money be transferred electronically by cryptocurrency to unlock the law firm's computers. Law firm C pays the ransom. Now again, sometimes they actually have access to your computer. Sometimes they don't. I've seen them ask for money where they actually haven't broken in. So the law firm has decided to pay the ransom and regains access to its data. And some of these, they got your data. Some of them, they didn't get your data. They just locked you out. In consultation with security experts, law firm C determines that no client information, here it is, was accessed, and none of the matters being handled by the law firm are negatively impacted by the delay. By the delay. So what's happened here is an outside company, now sometimes clicking on this thing makes it so they have full remote access to your computer and your whole intranet, right? Sometimes clicking on this stuff just makes it so they can lock down your system so you can't have access, but they can't either. Sometimes, so it depends what it is. I think it's interesting they say they consulted with security experts who then did a forensic analysis of the computers to determine. So if you have, but you've got to be comfortable that you can bring those security experts as witnesses if you need to say, they really know what they're doing and their forensic analysis shows nothing was lost. But if truly nothing was lost, and there are ways to know that if you've done things right, and you now have access back to your stuff, nothing was lost, there's nothing to tell.
Okay, what did they say? California says, the situation of law firm C involves a common entry point for hackers, as Paul has already told you.
Yeah.
Malware attached to a seemingly legitimate email, also referred to as phishing.
Yeah.
Given the ubiquity of this method of gaining access, solo practitioners and firms must consider implementing reasonable precautions, such as staff and attorney trainings, warning of this risk, and protocols for handling incoming emails. Law firm C has certainly been inconvenienced by the cyber breach, but the firm has confirmed that none of its clients were actually or potentially harmed because no confidential client information was accessed. And the short delay did not impair the firm's attorneys from continuing to provide necessary legal services to its clients. Therefore, the firm would not be required to disclose this incident.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if the consultant could not provide not preclude actual potential unauthorized access, a risk of client harm remains, and disclosure would be required. Attorneys, okay, that's that for attorney C. So I think you're right. They agree with you again that they're really certain. They gotta be really certain.
Really
they
certain.
got access to it.
Yeah, and there are ways, but you have to have a pretty resilient, system to be certain. Okay, D.
Let's go to attorney D.
Attorney D is outside counsel. I don't know what that means.
That means see, I told you he's not a lawyer. We're a real person here. Not outside counsel is someone. Inside counsel is like when I worked for Universal. I was actually employed by Universal as a lawyer. Outside counsel is a law firm.
Okay, so outside counsel for a life science technology company for whom attorney has been working on obtaining several very important patents. While on vacation, attorney D goes to a coffee shop to check personal and work emails. Attorney D's laptop is not encrypted. Instead of using virtual private network or personal hotspots to connect to the internet, attorney accesses the shop's public Wi-Fi network. Unknown to patrons or coffee shop staff, a hacker has set up a fake internet portal that resembles the one provided by the coffee shop. Attorney D does not realize the attorney actually logged on to that fake Wi-Fi network. Attorney D returns to the same coffee shop the next day, notices a sign warning patrons about. Okay, so I want to talk to the first part before I read the second part. So the first part is this is happening constantly. This is at airports, hotels, theme parks, coffee shops, where I can turn my phone or my computer into a fake Wi-Fi hotspot that has a better name for the company or the theme park we're in than the name they actually use for their real free Wi-Fi. And I can get lots of people to sign up for mine instead of theirs, especially if theirs requires you to put in your last name and hotel room number and mine doesn't. I can get lots of people to do that. And now, while there's web browsing, I'm able to see every page they're going to. I can even, with some tools, go in and look at every keystroke they make, right, to get their passwords and things. So this is this is a real danger to do this with your devices that have important information on. Now, most of us don't have to worry about this stuff because we don't have information that will hurt us if it's out there. But if you're someone that has that information, you need to be more aware.
I mean, before we go on the rest of the hypothetical, then. So a lot of lawyers, they have their law firm laptop. They're in the airport waiting for the plane,
right,
and go onto the Wi-Fi. What methods do you think should they now be aware of to make sure they're on the real Wi-Fi at the airport and not some fake Wi-Fi? Or maybe is this too big a risk?
I mean, the best thing to do is do it over cellular using your own personal hotspot, because then you're over your cellular network and the protection they give you. Whenever you do something for free, you're in danger, right? Whenever you have free internet, they're giving it to you for free, then you are now the product, right? You're now something that's, you're in danger of being used. But if you have to use those convention center Wi-Fi or whatever, the best thing to do is to go to somebody in authority, in charge of the location, make sure that you are on the correct Wi-Fi, make sure that you're logging in correctly, make sure that they're a company that they themselves, if the year is 2024, and the hotel hasn't updated their password, it's still Hilton 1999, and they haven't updated their password since then. Don't use that Wi-Fi. I would go in, make sure you're using the right one, make sure you're using the authentic one, and even then be aware that whenever we use public Wi-Fi that's wide open, that's our computer is now, how do I put it? When you turn a computer onto the internet, it's like opening up your briefcase on Main Street, New York. Anybody that's walking by can now take anything they want out of your briefcase. And so the second you get on a public Wi-Fi system, it's the weakest link. You are only as secure as they have secured their Wi-Fi system. You're only as secure as you've secured your computer against, you're now using their firewalls and their stuff as opposed to your own. So, again, it's scary. if I had sensitive information on my phone, let's say a normal person, if I had naked pictures of, my loved one on my phone, I would not then get on a public Wi-Fi anywhere with that device.
Well, it's a lesson, I guess, thing is I remember, probably don't know to buy these anymore. Before, like every, Wi-Fi was free at every hotel and stuff. There's these devices, I think they still sell, hopefully, that like AT&T would have, where you would actually create your little hotspot. So you can make your own phone a hotspot, but
Right.
also you can buy these devices that are. So
That's
perhaps,
right.
if you're a lawyer with a lot of sensitive information on your laptop, you're going to know you're going to need to use it in your hotel room, in an airport, whatever.
Get your own.
Maybe you have to invest in these things, or
Yeah.
again, make sure your phone can be used as a hotspot,
That's
which
right.
I know only works not that great sometimes.
That's right.
But again, and it's the sensitivity level. You're working on the biggest criminal prosecution in America at the time.
Right.
If you got to use your laptop in the airport, don't use the public Wi-Fi.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're representing the president, everybody's coming for you. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, continue the hypothetical though.
Number 2, part 2 of this is Attorney D returns to the same coffee shop the next day, notices a sign warning patrons about the fake ID. After returning to the office the following week, Attorney D has the law firm's technology team examine the laptop. The technology team concludes that someone had accessed files on a laptop related to the company's patrons, while Attorney D was connected to the fake Wi-Fi network. Since Attorney D did not review those files on that day, it appears reasonably likely that an unauthorized user had done so. Oh, I mean, you've gone out onto Main Street and passed out flyers. I mean, you've just handed it to everybody.
So the obligation of the lawyer now?
Yeah, you must.
You got to tell the
Because
advice.
not only have you done the wrong thing, but you found out about it. There's no plausible deniability, right? There's no, well, I didn't know, right? It's over now. Yeah.
Okay. What does California say? Attorneys who keep confidential information on their devices ought to be aware that accessing public Wi-Fi or other unsecured networks may open another access point for hackers. This is illustrated by Attorney D's exposing confidential information to anyone with the ability to electronically eavesdrop on the attorney's keystrokes. Attorneys who work on client matters remotely must consider the risks of harm and take reasonable precautions, as discussed above, to prevent unauthorized disclosure. Attorney D's failure to secure their online communications exposed confidential information to a hacker, and it is unknown if or to what extent the hacker would or could use such information.
Yeah.
It is this committee's view that Attorney D risked violating the duties of confidentiality and competence by using a public wireless connection without taking appropriate precautions, such as the use of encryption, a VPN, or other protective measures. Since the law firm was able to confirm the unauthorized access of confidential client information, Attorney D and the law firm must notify the client company as soon as possible, although it is unknown if or how the hacker might use the information. Because of the sensitive nature of the information to the company's business, the misappropriation would constitute a significant development and require appropriate notice to the client. Disclosure will be required if material client information was actually or reasonably suspected to have been accessed, disclosed, or lost in a breach. Once a disclosure is made, Attorney D and the law firm can evaluate with the company the likelihood that the information will be used by the hacker and may decide to speed up the timeline for obtaining the relevant patents related to the information that was inadvertently disclosed to mitigate potential harm. Of course, the event would also require Attorney D and the law firm to take appropriate remedial steps in terms of evaluating the firm's policies relating to attorneys accessing firm devices from unsecured locations. It should also consider reinforcing policies requiring attorneys to promptly address any irregularities or suspicions related to potential data breaches with the firm's technology officers as soon as they are discovered. In other words, Paul, you nailed it right on again.
Yeah. Now, I met an attorney once who refused to use any technology. He only worked in hard copies, typed things on a typewriter. You had to go to his office to pick things up. He wouldn't email, right? I think that's too far.
And not practical now.
And not practical. But the fax machine does have the benefit of no encrypted data. Right. So it's but since we are in the modern world, I know there are attorneys who say, that's not what I do, that's not part of my knowledge base, but right here we're learning, well, it now has to be.
And again, if you're aware, your ethical duty, be aware of relevant technology. Yeah. And this is an important one that came up. these public Wi-Fis are relevant technology. You have to be aware of their risks of them, and don't use them if you have anything on your laptop, your smartphone that could compromise a client, because it's not only bad for the client, it's bad for you. Imagine making that call to the client and telling them what happened.
Yeah.
Or imagine you didn't find it because you never found out.
Right. And most of the time you won't know.
And a breach occurs and terrible things happen and they trace it back to that event. Hope your malpractice insurance is up to date.
Right.
Okay, let's do one more. This one's the New York State Bar Association. This is the New York State Bar Association Committee on Professional Ethics, Opinion 1240. So they have facts and a question that was presented to them.
Okay.
Facts and question.
Hey, facts. When the inquiring lawyer downloads or accesses an app on their smartphone, the lawyer is sometimes asked whether the lawyer gives consent for that app to access the lawyer's contacts on the smartphone. The lawyer's contacts includes clients and criminal representations. Yes, I mean, that's happening every day to everyone. May a lawyer consent for an app to access contacts on the lawyer's smartphone that include the lawyer's current, former, or prospective clients? Okay, so, I mean, right now in today's world, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Constant Contact, MailChimp, they're all asking this every day, because every program wants to harvest all of your contacts in order to sell their products to them too. Every web page is trying to harvest your contacts to add all of your contacts to their mailing list and to sell to them. Everybody's trying to sell to everybody, and they're trying to get lists for free rather than buying them. And sometimes they make it so you have to click a lot of things or won't even give you access to the web pages you're trying to get to if you deny them the ability to have access to your contacts. But when you say yes to those cookies, or when you say yes to giving them access to those contacts, you're not only giving them their names, their address, their phone number, you're giving them their birthday, their photograph, any notes you've put about the person in your piece that you might be using in your legal firm. You may be giving them so much information that person hasn't said, yes, you're allowed to give to others. So, yeah, don't do that.
Okay.
Don't have your social media on your work device.
Yep. So they went through, the committee here went through a lengthy discussion of stuff like that. I won't go through all of that, but here's the conclusion. If contacts on a lawyer's smartphone include any client whose identity or other information is confidential under Rule 1.6, so let me get a little bit of detail on that. It's not always, and most of the time, not really confidential. You represent somebody. I mean, when I represent people, I say I represented Universal and ABC, and who cares? Right. But sometimes it is confidential. Sometimes no one wants to know. Super important celebrity calls me up because he's got a really embarrassing situation, or maybe a potential criminal matter.
Right. And
the fact that the loan that I'm a famous criminal lawyer, the fact the loan that he's consulting me is something he doesn't want to know. That's the kind of stuff they're talking about here. So if contacts on a lawyer's smartphone include any client whose identity or other information is confidential under Rule 1.6, then the lawyer may not consent to share contacts with the smartphone app unless the lawyer concludes that no human being will view that confidential information, and that the information will not be sold or transferred to additional third parties without the client's consent. And they went through a lot of things to describe that certain things are like that, but how confident could you ever be if that no human will ever see it or never be transferred?
For example, Twitter. So in the last year, Elon Musk bought Twitter.
I heard about that.
Right.
It was in the papers. It was in the papers. Yeah.
It was in those reels.
Yeah.
But everything that the previous Twitter promised us about, he now owns. He can do whatever he wants with it. He's not treating things the same way. And so we don't know that Mark Zuckerberg will own Facebook forever. We don't know. But anything we put on Facebook, we have given to him. We've put in his house. And so, I mean, we cannot have these personal things that belong to others, even if they feel like they belong to us. We cannot mix our personal and our business in this way. Yeah,
and this statement here that you have to conclude the information will not, no human being will view it and not be sold and transferred.
You can't.
You really can't. They go through a long thing on this, but we probably disagree with them. All these factors that I think you have to assume they would.
Yeah.
It just seems to me that if you're going to have your one phone, I don't blame you, that has both your client stuff and your personal stuff, you have to treat it as a client phone,
That's right.
as a work phone for those situations. And I think the answer we both agree with is, You never say yes to that.
Yeah,
I don't care
ever.
what. Don't all these factors. The answer is no.
No.
Because despite this opinion, you're putting yourself at risk, guys. I wouldn't do that. And women.
Yeah, I would. What I do for similar things like LinkedIn, right? I wanted all of my contacts to be on LinkedIn so I could add all of my contacts to LinkedIn. So I pulled all that data off my phone, turned it into a text that has, that made it so it was broken down in first name, last name information. Then I went through name by name and decided who I was going to input into LinkedIn, and then I uploaded that XLS or whatever file into LinkedIn so that I could try and connect with those contacts. So I was able to take it out of that space and put it back into that space to only upload what wasn't confidential and wasn't going to get me in trouble, right? So that's really how we have to see these things, is don't just give it freedom to have access to your phone. We have to be purposeful in deciding what we give.
Great. Well, Paul, thank you very much.
Yeah.
This is your first foray into legal ethics.
Yes.
And with any luck for you, you're last.
Last, that's right.
And
that's
again,
right.
once again, if people want to contact you for, not only cybersecurity lectures, but obviously awesome magic, and if you happen to be anthropology fans too.
Yeah. I've taught anthropology at University of Nevada, Las Vegas, Yale, SoCA, Thomas Jefferson University. But I'd love to come chat with you about cybersecurity issues, to do an evaluation of what's going on at your company, or just do a show at your next company event or celebration.
So what's your contact again?
Oh, pauldraper.com. pauldraper.com.
Right. Thank you all, and good day.
Bye.